Hello everyone. In this video I will be starting a second series I hope will be an ongoing one. It all depends on how often this man posts videos. Yup, VenomFangX is back. After shutting down his channel after long bouts of illegally DMCAing Thunderfoot and DPR Jones's videos, after defrauding people out of money by setting up a fake ministry and claiming part of the proceeds went to charity, which, as far as I know, they didn't, he is now back and making videos again. I intend to rake this man over the proverbial coals whenever he posts a video. Now, I had intended to start with his first video, A Riddle for Atheists, but it is literally 3.5 minutes of him having edited videos of popular atheists to try and make them look silly, in which he doesn't really say anything. Instead, it sort of seems like him tossing his glove on the ground for challengers to take up. Challenge accepted. Now, on to his second video, Atheism is Right for Fools.
If you've spent any time on YouTube engaged in the atheist versus theist debates, you've no doubt noticed that atheists like to decorate themselves with words like thought, think, reason, logic, intelligent, free, and so on. The message is clear. They think they're smarter than you if you believe in God.
Yep, we are. Oh, wait, was I supposed to be humble and kind about this? Okay, I'll start over. Yes, we are. If you believe in a God, you are believing in an unfounded assumption. No God has ever demonstrated itself, and no one has demonstrated either a God or a need for one.
Now, this is both self-aggrandizing and insulting to any person who has ever, in the history of the world, reasoned about God's existence and concluded that, yes, he exists.
And what reasoning would that be? Would you care to elaborate? You have the floor. You can be the first person ever to demonstrate a God. Have at it.
In my experience, atheism on YouTube in particular is less about reasoning carefully and more about insulting the opposition and making themselves feel like they're more intelligent than anyone who disagrees with them. The ultimate irony behind all of that pride is this. The atheist exclusively, unlike anyone else, believes that there is no logic, no reason, no intelligence, no rationality behind existence itself.
So far you've flung clever-sounding yet very dry insults at your opposition, but you haven't demonstrated anything yet. I hope you're getting to a point.
Theirs is an existence based entirely on happenstance. Reality just so happens to be such that it allows atheists to exist, but reality did not by way of reason, thought, or logic bring about their existence. So while championing themselves as the bright and shining examples of intelligence and reason and thought, they reject any and all notions that their own existence is the result of any kind of intelligence, reason, thought, or logic.
I get that you want to believe that there is some reason for existence and that you believe that this reason is because a deity wanted things to exist, but to make a claim of that kind, you need evidence. I can tell gravity exists because I can test it. I can demonstrate it. We know a bowling ball and a feather are affected by gravity identically in a vacuum, and that the only reason a feather falls slower is air resistance. Why? Because we've tested it.
This is NASA's Space Power Facility near Cleveland, Ohio, and it is the world's biggest vacuum chamber. It's used to test spacecraft in the conditions of outer space, and it does that by pumping out the 30 tons of air in this chamber until there are about 2 grams left. Galileo's experiment was simple. He took a heavy object and a light one and dropped them at the same time to see which fell fastest. Now in this case, the feathers fell to the ground at a slower rate than the bowling ball because of air resistance. So in order to see the true nature of gravity, we have to remove the air.
Station 1, go for drop. PCV 30-1, pressure set point at 240 psi. We are go for drop.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Cameras on. 2, 1. Release.
To be able to claim there is an intelligent agent behind existence, we need to test for it. And to date, every proposed test for gods and miracles has failed. Miserably.
The absurdity of atheism in light of this fact creates the ultimate disparity, the most profound contradiction. There is literally no other worldview that so embraces certain virtues than fundamentally rejects the necessary foundations for those virtues, to the point of defeating their own worldview. This is so bizarre, so utterly disastrous, that one can scarcely think of anything akin to it. Even creating a parody of it is difficult, which is why atheism is so difficult to insult. To believe nothing is the cause of everything is itself the greatest joke. For the sake of illustration, imagine a conspiracy of vegetarians who decide the only way to stop people from eating meat is to kill all the animals. It's that self-defeating. You cannot, on one hand, embrace the benefits of thought, reason, rationality, and logic, and on the other hand, reject any and all notions that reason, rationality, logic, and thought are at the foundations of reality itself.
Oh, no, we have not thrown logic and reason out the window when we don't assume there is some reason for existence. As skeptics, we want evidence before we accept something as true. Otherwise, the most honest answer is that we don't know. We don't know why the universe exists. We don't know if it ever had a beginning, or if it has always existed. What little evidence I've seen is that it always existed, simply because matter and energy aren't destroyed or created, only changed. I've never seen or heard of any form of matter being created, only changing what's already there. Even the Big Bang model works on this principle. All the matter in the universe was contained in a singularity, and expanded outward from there. The Big Bang model never posits where that matter came from, or how it came to exist. You are the arrogant one who believes you know how existence itself started. Please demonstrate it.
You would think that people who are so eager to embrace all things rational, logical, and reasonable would themselves be the ones who embrace the idea that behind existence itself is something rational, logical, and reasonable.
If there were a single shred of evidence that demonstrated that the universe ever was not existent, and that there was some reason or logical thought behind its supposed creation, I'd get on board. As an open-minded skeptic, I'm open to new ideas, but I demand evidence.
However, to the contrary, the atheist is committed, emotionally, romantically, for whatever reason, to the idea that a chaotic, blind, unthinking, unintelligent, unrational process of a meaningless, purposeless nature brought about for no reason at all a universe with specific laws, ratios of elements, and a series of events that brought about, sustained, and flourished an entire world of reasonable, rational, thinking beings who rely on the fundamental rules of thought, reason, rationality, and logic in everything they do.
Wow, there is a lot to unpack in that tirade. 1. I, as an atheist, am not committed to any specific worldview or ideology. You can change my mind. Give me good reason or evidence. 2nd, you claim on behalf of atheists that the process behind the supposed creation of the universe, which you still haven't demonstrated either, was chaotic or unrational, and that this process brought about order. Why assume that order wasn't there at one point and there at another? Could that order not always have been there? Why do you assume that the creation of the universe came from chaos at all? And why do you assume atheists believe this? And this all just presupposes the idea that the universe ever was created or ever wasn't there. I mean, you haven't even demonstrated any of these points, let alone provided evidence or good logical reason for anything you've stated. And assuming creation was actually a thing, why would it be bad if this process is unguided or meaningless? Both of these words imply a thinking being, but again, you never provide evidence such a being is required, nor evidence that such a being exists. We exist. We don't need to exist for any specific reason. To assert there is a reason requires some form of evidence. Thirdly, you make it all seem like there was some end goal of creating this ball of dirt we live on, or that there was some intended goal of creating people with the capability of thought. But goals are things thinking beings have. You are looking at the final product, Earth, and assuming that it's so complex there must be some reason behind it. It's the argument from complexity, wrapped up in a condescending vitriol as you attempt to poison the well of polite discourse. Complexity doesn't necessitate a thinking being to make it. We see things in nature that are naturally formed and complex, and we have a good understanding of how they're formed. You can't just assume complex things require a thinking mind to invent them.
Then these same beings who love and embrace their abilities to use reason and logic devote themselves entirely to the idea that there is absolutely nothing logical, reasonable, thoughtful, or rational behind their existence or the existence of the universe they reason about.
Actually, we do videos on other things. Watch my channel. Oh, look, I just provided evidence. Your turn.
Then, on top of all of that, they have the audacity to accuse those who recognize the order and intelligence all around them as being less intelligent than they are for daring to propose that the reason for this reason we see around us is something that itself possesses reason.
Yes, because you aren't providing evidence for your claims. You are just making baseless claims and demanding people acknowledge them as true with no evidence to support said claims.
Were you always this stupid, or did you take lessons?
I took lessons.
And here we can see why the Bible says the fool has said in his heart there is no God, and professing themselves to be wise, they became as fools. For to reject God is to reject the very accounting for reason itself.
You quoted a book. What is in books isn't true simply because it's in a book. It's true because of supporting evidence. We know, for example, that a chemistry textbook is accurate because we can do the same experiments and reach the same conclusions as the people who wrote it. And if the book is in error, we can publish our own materials to correct these errors. That's how science works. We learn by creating hypotheses, testing them, and learning from the results, and continually retesting them. Peer review is a critical part. The Bible not only hasn't been demonstrated to be true through evidence, it also contradicts itself numerous times, and in fact is proven to be wrong on several accounts within it.
Okay, so turning to Yahweh's anger for question 1, for 10 points, how long does Yahweh's anger last? Yes, Ken?
Forever.
Okay, it's a forever from Ken. Craig, what do you think?
I'm gonna go with not forever.
Well, you're both correct. 10 points each. Yahweh's anger lasts both forever and not forever. Well done. Next question. Does Yahweh tempt people? Yes, Craig?
No, he would never do that.
Okay, Ken, do you agree with Craig?
Well, Yahweh tempted Abraham, so it's definitely something that he'd do.
Well, Ken, you're right about that, so 10 points for you, and 10 points for you also, Craig, because God cannot be tempted with evil, nor tempteth he any man. Question 3. Can salvation be attained by works? Yes, Craig?
No, a man is not justified by the works of the law, but by the faith of Jesus Christ.
Okay, and Ken?
Well, I'm afraid Craig's correct, and I'm going to have to differ with him on this one, and instead go with what Jesus said. Namely, if you want to enter into life, keep the commandments.
Yes, but a man is justified by faith without the deeds of the law.
You see then that a man is justified by works, and not by faith alone.
Both correct once again, somehow or other. And now for our final question for this round. What are the consequences of seeing Yahweh's face? Yes, Ken.
Death!
Ken saying death. Do you agree, Craig?
I'm saying the preservation of life.
But there shall no man see me and live.
And that's correct.
But hang on. Jacob saw God face to face.
And Abraham.
Yes, and so did Moses.
But no man hath seen God at any time.
Except the 70 elders of Israel.
And all the others too. And of course none of them did, because no man hath seen nor can see God. 10 points for everyone there, including me, I think, on that one.
It can't be cited as a credible source on its own. You need supporting evidence.
To imagine that reason and logic emerged from a chaotic void, a meaningless sea of cosmic accident, coincidence, chance, and happenstance, is to say that all thought itself is ultimately to no purpose, no virtue, no value, no meaning, no end. The ultimate irony is that while the atheist will always try to use reason, logic, and rationality to try to argue their position, every moment they do, they bear witness to the fact that the reality they occupy and rely upon to reason with and about demonstrates by their own use of their reason that true reality is rational, reasonable, and logical.
So, if I understand you correctly, basically, your argument is, I think, therefore there is a God that does too? I know I keep saying this, but evidence, please! Just because you have logic and reason doesn't mean the inception of the universe, assuming it ever had a beginning, was due to logic and reason. Even if you assume a creator, you cannot assume qualities of the creation process from the creation. You can't assume that said creator had a purpose or any specific meaning behind said creation either. You can't assume because you can think that there was any thought behind the universe. Your entire argument in this video is a giant argument from ignorance fallacy. You claim to see order and logic. You assume that because the opposite of order and logic is chaos and illogic, that before there was any order or logic, that chaos and illogic was the normal state. Then you make assumptions based on the idea of, I don't know how chaos can create order or logic can create logic, therefore God. You're using magic as an excuse to solve your logical problem that you created because you can't figure out a better answer and assuming no one else out there can. Worse, you push the idea that atheists all believe this nonsense you're spouting, basically attacking a straw man with an argument from ignorance and then declaring yourself smart and logical because of it, whilst ignoring that you have demonstrated really poor logic and critical thinking skills, which ultimately undermine your entire argument.
In doing so, they also demonstrate themselves to be the true rejectors of reason, logic, and all things rational.
Rationality is demanding evidence. I have asked for it directly so far, half a dozen times in this video. Believing in something without evidence is the height of irrationality. As near as I can tell, you believe in a God, the Christian God specifically, on flimsy or no evidence. What little evidence you may think you have in your Bible has been investigated and found wanting most of the time. You, sir, are the one who has tossed rationality, thought, and reason to the wind, and you attempt to cover for this by poisoning the well by claiming your opponents are irrational. You can convince me of a God. Provide good evidence for one, and I will change my mind and become a theist. Please provide it. Now, I could continue picking apart the rest of his video as I'm only halfway in, but he keeps repeating the same point and trying in vain to make atheists look like idiots. If I keep going, I just repeat myself over and over again. Venom. Evidence. Provide it, please. Otherwise, you look like an idiot, and your video format for this one isn't helping on that front. You're just a black stain on a bunch of what I would have to guess are royalty-free motion backgrounds. Whee! I'm now an official Skeptic clone! Sorry, this just seemed like fun and I had to try it. Anyways, that's it for me this episode. Please remember to follow me on Twitter and Facebook to get updates on when I post videos. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel, and if you like this video, please share it on social media. And as always, I will see you next time.